Okay, well, today we have another fantastic one on That's Classic. Somebody has come back, and it's just awesome to have her here. She played Sissy on Family Affair, and we got a really wonderful response to her. She's here to answer fan questions. I want to welcome Kathy Garver.
Hi there, John. I am so happy to be here and meet my fans and friends and all the people that have an interest in Family Affair for sure.
Oh yeah, believe me, they were. A lot of people were very excited. So here we go. Let's start our first question. This is from Lee Christopher 68. Kathy, you were in one of my all-time favorite horror movies,
Ah,
Night of the Hunter. Famously and sadly, this is the only film Charles Laughton had directed. Do you have any memories of working with him, either personally or professionally?
yes, but do I have to give my age too?
No, no, no. I don't think it was his age. I think it's just like, he's the 68th Lee Christopher, like, I think as a handle. But it does sound like
No,
that. I realized when I said that.
maybe he was born in 68. But Lee, I will tell you, this was the first movie that I had made, Night of the Hunter, and it was very, very exciting. And I remember him very well, Charles Laughton, and this was his very first and last directorial job, and one of the reasons he's said because the movie got such awful reviews, and then he had like a little tiff with one of the people. Turns out it's one of the best psychological, now recognized movie ever made. It's on this list of horror lists. The cast was incredible. He was very warm with his cast, and I was on the movie the entire time,
Hmm.
and I was the double for the little girl who was only 6 and had never done anything. Even though this was my first film, I had been singing and dancing with the Medlin Studio since I was 3. I was very trained, I was very athletic, and I was 8 and she was just 6. So I did almost all of her scenes. And I remember, and I have a picture of Charles Laughton and Lillian Gish and me and Billy Chapin all sitting around a table. And he is showing me how to cut out the paper dolls of the money, because that's a big part of I'd hate to be a spoiler, but it's a big part of the movie where this money that's stolen, it was put into a doll. I'm always surrounded by dolls.
Yeah, no kidding.
I found the money and I was taking the money out and I don't know what it is. And so I start to make paper dolls out of it. Well, Billy Chapin, my brother, is just saying, oh no. So Charles Laughton was very, he showed me and we all sat around doing that. We'd sit around having crackers and cheese that Lillian Gish would actually provide with her own money. She says, oh, this set needs more food. And she would bring that in. But he was a very on-site director, and it was a privilege that that was my very first movie, and then to work with Cecil B. DeMille, another, who was a great director. They were both directors in many different ways, the psychological part and then epics.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, I have to admit, Kathy, I was just getting like goosebumps thinking about you sitting there with Charles Laughton and Lillian Gish. I mean, Hollywood history, it doesn't get any deeper than that.
It was a fabulous cast. Robert Mitchum, Shelley Winters, uh, Peter Graves, Lillian Gish, and Billy Chapin, Kathy Garver,
Yeah. Yeah.
directed by Charles Laughton. Yeah, it's really a piece of history, cinema history.
Wow, Lillian Gish sounds like she was quite the kind person herself there to be bringing in, cheese and crackers for you guys and wow.
She was fabulous. She was very kind, and and her part was just fabulous. They were going to do a remake of it a while back. There was one remake done, but this new one, I really wanted to play Lillian Gish's part. She's an older lady and she has all these orphans that live in her house and she's very kind to them. She can also shoot a gun.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, that would have been really cool. Hi, everyone. It's John. I just wanted everyone to know about my That's Classic membership. See the join button in the corner of the video? Just click that. For $3.99 a month, you get a members only live chat with me where we talk about classic television in depth. We talk about specific shows you might be interested in, suggestions. It is just a lot of fun. It's been a great collaboration with the members that are part of the program already. For that, you also get a shout out with your name on my next episode, and you get my episodes released to you early before the general public. So hit the join button, become a member. Let's go back to the video.
Yeah.
Seriously. Well, I'm going to jump to, and I had another question, but since you brought up Cecil B. DeMille, I'll go to that one right away. Jorge Lima Lewis. I hope I said that correctly. What memories do you have of Cecil B. DeMille?
Lots of them. Um, Now, this was my second movie after Night of the Hunter, and I had a new agent. And what is an agent? Hazel McMillan. And she sent me over to Paramount to play an extra, one of the slaves. So I thought that was exciting unto itself. So I got all the makeup and the kind of rough hewn uh, costumes. And I was supposed to be in this carriage with a little lamb on my lap and in the Exodus scene. So I'm all excited and seeing all the things going on. And then I hear this big voice call out, "Don't let that little girl's face get in the camera." I said, "What? Is he talking to me? Is that God?" Because I was like 8.5 then, and he was on a big crane, so the voice was coming from way up there with a microphone. "Don't let that little girl's face get in the camera." So I had a little blanket, and they kind of snuggled me in that. After that scene was over, the assistant director got me off the. I remember these things so vividly.
Yeah.
And I've written about them in my one book. I've done 6 books, but in Surviving Sissy, that was a thing that I talk about. So he gets me off of the carriage, and Cecil B. DeMille comes over, and we chat and we talk, and then he leaves, and the assistant director says, "Well, I think you're going to be in this movie a lot longer." I was on the movie for 6 weeks, and Cecil
Wow.
DeMille wrote me. He wrote me the lines to say in the script itself. So I thought he was. I didn't have a lot of contact with him, but he directed my scenes. He chose me, out of a lot
Yeah.
of people to enhance his movie. He dealt with so many people, and it was such an epic thing that I think to make it more relatable and personal, he would pick someone out and make it and humanize it. And that's what he was doing with the child. So he was creative and wonderful to work with.
Wow, that's just amazing. I mean, I really, I'm just blown away. You know what is so cool about that too, Kathy, is here you are, you're an extra in the Ten Commandments, which obviously is an epic we still watch to this day. But then you go on, I mean, so many, quote unquote, kids or extras, they don't go on to like fame or whatever. And you did. I mean, you literally went, all the way to the top on the entertainment ladder. And it's pretty cool to see that that's where the starting was.
Yes, I hate to tell you, it's the 70th anniversary of the Ten Commandments
Wow.
this year. And it is also the 60th anniversary of Family Affair this year,
Oh
the
man.
5th anniversary of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, where I played that role. But I think it's very odd, Sean, that all those numbers, and I'm 50. So I don't know exactly what happened, but it's the magic of Hollywood, I guess. That's what it
Hey,
is.
Kathy, that was beautiful. I like that. Okay, here we go. Here we go to our next one. This is Paul Kitt. I remember Robert Reed appearing on Family Affair. You mentioned on the DVD he was one of the actors Brian Keith didn't get on very well with. Can you say anything about that?
I don't know why I don't know why Brian didn't like Robert Reed. And Brian was very outspoken. He always spoke his mind. There was no pretense about this man at all. And I really love that in him. And he showed me the way. I happen to I'm a Sagittarian, and I tend to be a little blunt along the way. And but if he didn't like him, and if he didn't like a particular actor, he wouldn't look at them. I mean, he did that to I forget her name now. She was the wife of the Philharmonics leader, but oh, I can't remember her name. But he didn't look at any of the actors. he didn't like. I thought he was, I think that he thought he was too precise in doing everything. And Brian is such a laid back, realistic actor.
Mhm.
And here's this guy making sure that everything is done. But that was part of his character, and that, he was a straw man that we, kind of figured out at the end, and he wasn't true to himself. But I guess Brian thought that he was happily cast, but it wasn't.
Wow. Wow. That's interesting. Please hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell so you're notified when I release a new episode of That's Classic. And in case you missed any of the old episodes, go check them out, like Henry Winkler from Happy Days, or Jerry Mathers from Leave It to Beaver, or Judy Norton from The Waltons. There's so many. Enjoy. Yeah, because it's funny because Brian Keith, even in his in his regular roles, you hit it right on the head. I mean, he always kind of came across like that, even in his characters. He says it like it is, and he's as we've talked about in the past, like the man's man, and but the vulnerability too. Really interesting. Okay, let's go. This is Philippines Farm Life. That is the handle. Yeah. Um, Kathy, do you remember being in Cedar Rapids, Iowa at WMT CBS affiliate with the other cast members except for Mr. Keith on the Dr. Max show with Mambo the Clown? I was there observing, but that was 60 plus years ago. I just was curious. Does she remember or not? I would totally understand. Sincerely, John Phillips.
I remember Cedar Rapids, and that was really, really fun. And I remembered the clown, but I think that's it. Those two things I remember, and there are so many things in my memory file, and I'm sure it's back there somewhere. That's one that I can't really get to right away. That would take a little doing.
That's fine. I love that you remember the clown though, too.
Oh,
That's
I
great.
do remember Mambo. Yes,
Oh, that's
yes.
funny. Okay. Moving on. Thank you, John. Okay. Katrinka 722. I always loved Sissy's book on Family Affair. I was wondering if Kathy had any say in her pretty clothes and her hairstyles. I thought she was perfect.
Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you, Patrika. Katrika. What's her name?
Katrinka.
Katrinka. My
Yeah.
dad used to call me Katrinka for Kathleen, and Kathy
Oh,
and
cool.
Katrinka. Um, I had some say, and it took me 3 seasons to get my voice heard a little bit louder on the kinds of clothing I was going to wear, because the producers and the creators, and rightly so, now that I look back on it, and
Mhm.
brilliantly so, wanted the show to have a long life, and they knew, and they already had my 3 sons that had been on for, like, about 9 years, and went up to 10 seasons, I think,
Mhm.
or even more, 13. So a long time. So they wanted to gear Family Affair that way. And one of the ways that they wanted to do it was to make the clothing that was classic and not give in to too many fads. That was like in the 60s. And what teenager did not want to wear a miniskirt or hot pants? Well, they say Sissy is not wearing hot pants, or she's not wearing mini skirts. And they were very adamant about that. But the first year I did get to go shopping with the wardrobe lady at Bullock's Wilshire, which was like at that time very akin to Neiman Marcus or
Mhm.
Bloomingdale's, very upscale, which was fun for me to do. And so that held true. And then there was Holly's Harp, which was a great boutique in Hollywood. And she made all these beautiful clothes. A lot of them were in my family in paradise when we went to Tahiti. And I got all the, that was maybe season 4 even, and I got them to let me go to Holly's Harp and get these beautiful uh, clothes made out of antique fabric, because that was really the cool thing then. And they were a little shorter. And then by the time you get to the 5th season, well, I had a clothing deal, and the hemlines were like 3 or 4 inches above my knees. I'm doing, because of this celebration, I am doing a 4-hour block on Catchy Comedy. Catchy Comedy is a part of MeTV. It's
Hmm.
on one of their channels. And
Mhm.
like if you go to Catchy Comedies and you press a button, then you can find out where it is in your area.
Mhm.
So on September 13th, because the show debuted on actually September 12th, but they're doing it on December 13th. I picked out my 8 favorite episodes. So I'm going to introduce them and comment on them. But I must say, this question from Katrinka made me, I looked at my clothing and I said, oh, I did change a lot through those 5 years. And
Yeah.
my hairstyle changed every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which made me, not so much of a character like um, Sebastian, like Mr. French, wore the same thing for 5 years,
Mhm.
and Anissa had little ponytails for 5 years. They're more identifiable by that. I changed all the time, and I had in the back of my mind is that I didn't want to be stereotyped. Okay, oh no, she played Sissy, and everybody, knows her as Sissy, so she can't play another character. Um, but like my first year, I had the Del Sassoon cut when I was in at UCLA, and that was the big thing. So when the first year, well, they didn't want that sophisticated the Del Sassoon cut, so I had a wig. The first couple times, I would say the first 4 or 5 episodes. Then my hair started growing out, and I could wear the same. But then they wanted it lighter, so then we made it more of a strawberry blondish kind of color.
Yeah.
And so that stayed with me the rest of the season. And so I would just, the hair would be dyed. And then I liked it when it was, growing longer and then really growing longer. Then I cut it all off in the season. I don't know, girls can be girls. So that's what we did.
Wow, that is really fascinating. I had no I gotta be honest with you. I'm enjoying these questions as much as you are telling us about them. I really am.
Well, it's interesting to me because, and especially I have a new book out, Romancing with the Stars, and I have been
Right.
doing tons and tons of podcasts, every day.
Yeah.
And it's basically the same questions. So this is so refreshing. Nobody's ever asked me that about my hair and my face. No one ever asked me, what did you really think of Charles Laughton? Or are these, so they are really, to me, it's fun. He says, oh yeah, right.
Exactly. I'm thinking the same thing. Well, I gotta be honest, because we had done our first interview together. I don't think I recall you saying that you wore a wig for some of the episodes. So that was actually quite fascinating too.
Yeah, nobody ever asked me that.
Yeah. How
I mean, I tell
interesting.
this story of the green hair, but
Yeah.
that's my hair story. But
Right. I think I have that. I have that. Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
The first one. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is Marigold 7250. I've heard that Anissa was pushed by her mother to work even during her time off from the show, and I know there were child labor laws. Kathy, do you know if the producers or anyone ever talked about stepping in on her behalf? Also, Kathy, you played the best big sister ever.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I don't remember all the numbers behind your name,
Yeah.
but thank you. Um, yes, her mother was very pushy, and she was the ultimate stage mother.
Mm,
And she did when Anissa was off, she was did all these publicity things and she would go and she had a dress line and so she would do that and so she really didn't have any rest and our publicity director for Family Affair kept making all of these things for her to go to and
mm,
do, and I don't think Anissa really had anything to say about it. And nobody really ever stepped in. Everybody kind of had their own lives. I saw what was going on, but I thought that she maybe liked it, Anissa,
mhm.
and it wasn't my place,
Sure.
really.
Sure.
And she didn't seem to be suffering so much from it. But at the end of the show, you could see, well, yeah, this is not going to be going on anymore. Here she was 13 and she had a little doll that she was still carrying around with her
Yeah.
less and less and still wearing, little short dresses and pigtails. And she was 13. She wanted
Yeah.
to be a teenager. Now that was, I think, is something that because of that, then she says, forget it. I'm not going to continue in the business because that was too much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Well, thank Thanks for answering that one. Here is Harold 55, not his age, but that's his little. Season 4, episode 4, Sissy's apartment. When Sissy moves into her own apartment in season 4, it marked a big change for me in the show. She wasn't just one of the kids anymore. Did that storyline mirror your own growing independence as an actress at the time? And what was it like sharing those comedic scenes with Sebastian Cabot, constantly checking up on you?
That's a really a great question, and I think that I might go back and look at my 8 favorite, episodes and look at that one again. And it was interest for me, it was a mirror of my own life, the way that I was changing because I had lived with my parents and well, I was at UCLA. I was living in the sorority house, but I was still living with my parents during the first and second, seasons. And then I maybe it was the third or fourth season, I got an apartment with a couple of my sorority sisters,
Mm.
Brentwood, and that was a big change. And I would still call up my parents, says, "Can I bring the laundry over to your house?" and
Yeah, of course.
that. And it is interesting the way that Sissy developed. And when I look again, when I was looking back at these shows to try and pick out, my favorite ones, I could see the pattern of how innocent and how young she was at the beginning. And then, the second one starting to, lift her wings a little bit, and then more in the third ones to even fly more. And then like the fourth and fifth ones were all boyfriends and she has to get married. And so I think it did make a signal that she was getting more independent and you know, she had to test this out, a little rebellious and should I be a hippie or what should I be? And then towards later, she's getting more mature. And should she marry this person and go to the Peace Corps, or should
Mhm.
she marry a prince? So it's really that watching them grow up, and especially Sissy. Sissy was really only one that changed, because the kids were the kids the whole time, they're kids. And Brian Keith, just was settling in and he got tempted a couple times by some pretty ladies and always came back to the family. Same with me. Oh, I'm going to get married, but I always came back to the family. And Sebastian was Sebastian. So she though changed very, very much so in attitudes and intellect and emotion.
Yeah, yeah. This is from Gary Carpenter. He says, Kathy, you did an episode of the live version of Ghostbusters with Ted Knight, starring Larry Storch and Forrest Tucker. You did a parody of the Canterville Ghost. Can you comment on that?
I absolutely loved it. It was so different than what I had done. And plus, I was so skinny at that time. I have some pictures and I said, "Oh, you looked really good." um, and Larry Storch and what's his name?
Forrest Tucker?
Forrest Tucker. Forrest Tucker then asked me out.
Oh,
And but Forrest Tucker was married. And so he wanted, I guess, Larry to be I forget what it's called, the shield. And I says, "Well, this might not be exactly right." But that was what was going on
oh
behind.
my gosh.
But it was just so much fun. And at night is saying, "I'm only doing this because I want to keep my SAG insurance." And, kind of belittling it. And it was so funny. I mean, I loved all the dialogue. I love the energy there. It's like one of the treasured things that I have done because they were just great together, Larry and Forrest. And I love ghosts. In the first place, I love ghosts.
Yeah.
The TV show Ghosts is like one of my favorite things. And so that was all just so appealing. It was
Oh,
lovely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love the original Canterville Ghost with I think Robert Young is in that one, and I'm trying to think of gosh, I blanked on the child actress. Might be Margaret O'Brien, but anyway, it was that. Yeah, my gosh, that's so cool you did that.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
saw Margaret O'Brien 2 days ago. It was Jerry Mather's mother's 99th birthday.
Oh,
And I belong to the Motion Picture Mothers Club. and that's been around, a very venerable organization. And we help kids that are in the business and started like in the 1920s. John Provost's mother was in it. Tom Selleck's mother, Martha Selleck, was president of the club for a long time. And then Marilyn Mathers, Jerry Mathers' mother, was the president for about 12 years. But we had a really good time. And I sat right across from Margaret O'Brien. And at the end of the year, December the 13th, which is also my birthday, I'm receiving the Margaret O'Brien Legacy Award. And we will also celebrate the 60th anniversary. Lots of awards and anniversaries this year. You know, I
That's
got the
so cool.
award for the Grammy nominee. I did get the award, but I was nominated for the Grammy Award this year.
No, I did not know that. Tell me, yeah, tell me about that. For
Well, it wasn't for my singing. I'll tell you that, even though I'm sorry, Mrs. Micklin, but we could have worked on keeping on pitch a little bit better. Um, it was it was for the best audiobook narration, storytelling, recording 2026. I lost out to the Dalai Lama. I mean, give me a break. And his was Lamentations. I mean, how many different times can you say a lamentation? Mine was for Elvis, Rocky, and Me, which was the Carol Connor story. So there was lots of juicy things in there, lots of opportunity to change voices, lots of fun uh, things about her, and it was and Elvis. So and there was a song in it too that she had. She's a songwriter, Carol Connors. That she was nominated for the Oscar for the Rocky theme,
Hmm.
and also for the Rescuers for Disney. But there's a scene that she wrote for Elvis, and the song was in the book as well. I mean, it was really a beautiful book, I must say. There's my, oh, that's one of my trophies. Is that the one?
Well, you'd have to pull it close because it's got that. Yeah,
Oh, it's got the blur
yeah, it's
thing.
got the blur on.
I don't know all these buttons here. I
Oh,
put
don't
the
worry about it.
buttons in.
Hey, first of all, congratulations.
Oh,
That's a
thank
big honor.
you.
That's really cool, Kathy. That's really awesome. I'm both the Grammy and the Margaret O'Brien Award.
Yes.
That's cool. I'm really happy for you. That's neat.
And the Golden Era Award I got during Oscar season, and that was presented by Stan Livingston, and
Oh,
I presented an award to Eric Roberts at that same thing. So yeah, lots of awards. Nice.
oh, and great people you're around too. I love both of those guys have been on the show and they're both terrific people. So yeah,
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
really like that. Okay, here we go. On to the questions. Uh, C.S. Roethlisberger. Um, I would like to know what your experience was like working on the Big Valley with Barbara Stanwyck and Richard Long.
That was great. They shot right next to us at CBS Studio Center. And we were right in the middle of doing Family Affair. And then they cast me, and I had a great time. First of all, I love to be outdoors. I like to ride horses. And I rode horses in this episode. I shot, and it was action, which really, I mean, I really basically, I'm very athletic. I'm a sports person. And, Sissy is always so very sweet, although
Yes.
she did dance in one of those episodes. That was one of my favorites, but we can't use it because of we sing "Let Me Entertain You,"
Oh
and
yeah.
they couldn't get the rights to it.
Yep.
I love, I love to play tennis. I love to ski. I love to ride horses. So that doing that series and that episode was really fun. I had to do it quickly because I was then, as a matter of fact, I I went from doing that to getting on an airplane and flying back to Washington for the inauguration. So I was really hurrying up and getting everything done. But it was wonderful working with Sajid Khan, who played this dishonest prince. And he was very nice. I enjoyed that. We had a great cast, the guest cast, but it was something that was different. It was like doing, the Ghostbusters and doing like Big Valley. And after that, I did an Adam-12, all those different kinds of things from Sissy. Still, so again, I would not be stereotyped as her. But now I like it. I'm getting a doll made of me as Sissy for the celebration of the 60th anniversary.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable. Where's that doll gonna be available?
We're doing it right now. It's being made in China.
Uh-huh.
And so it will probably be out in about 4 months. It'll be on my website. We'll probably put it on Amazon. It's going to be on the Family Affair 60th website.
Mhm.
So, and then there's links where to get like Family Affair memorabilia because we're doing some kaleidoscopes and Ashton Drake that made Mrs. Beasley. So we have a special Mrs. Beasley and a special Mrs. Beasley ornament. So that's all on my website for the Family Affair 60th. It's a special Facebook page and website for the celebration.
Oh my gosh, that's really cool that you're doing that stuff. I love the tie into Miss Beasley too. That's neat.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, hey, by the way, a couple things. Barbara Stanwyck, obviously, you know, she was such a strong woman and such a strong actress. As a young actor yourself, I mean, actress yourself at that moment, was that kind of just, was there any, did you ever have a second with her or, get a chance to, you know, be around her?
I only had a couple scenes with her,
Mhm.
and I did notice that she was very strong and she was like this and she was like that as a person. And also within what she did. Most of my scenes were with what was his name? Robert Breck. Was that his name? Robert
Richard Lawn or
Richard
yeah.
Long.
Mhm.
That sounds just like Robert Richard Long. And
Hey,
most
it's
of
a lot
he
of
was
names.
he was my overseer, and he was supposed to, I was an heiress, and he was supposed to be taking care of me. So that was the gist of the story. So it was primarily about that. Each of the episodes they focus on a particular known character. You'll
Mhm.
see it in almost every series. Like on Family Affair, this was Sissy show, or this was Uncle Bill's show, or
Yeah.
I see that in Ghosts. It's sometimes on Ghosts. Okay, so it's the lady's ghost. It's her story, or So
Right. Right.
anyway, it was Richard Long's in my story,
I gotcha.
and
Um,
actually, they were going to keep that on had the show and cast me and Sajid, and in if the series had continued.
hmm,
Valley, but it was canceled, and then along with Family Affair, the CBS just totally changed everything during that
yeah.
71s.
How interesting that they were gonna keep it. You also mentioned Adam-12, and I know my subscribers well enough to know that they're gonna be like, "Why didn't you ask her about Adam-12 then?" Now, no one in these questions has, by the way, and so I'm just gonna take that. What was it like, obviously, working on Adam-12?
Well, here is another thing where I wanted to change my image a little bit, and she is like a drug dealer. And so, Sissy, a drug dealer? No, because her name was not Sissy. And she was very sweet. And Barbara Hale played my mother. And I see, okay, now help me with names. My names I can't remember. Not
Ke
Martin Goldner, but the other
Kent
Ken,
McCord?
Ken McCord. So, and I see him at autograph shows, and he is the nicest person. I swear, he's a good actor. He's a nice person. I enjoyed being on the show, and having a little bit of a different character. Barbara Hale's husband played the drug dealer. So it was kind of a family affair. And I stayed in touch with Barbara until she passed away, unfortunately, when she was in Palm Springs. But yeah,
Wow.
it was a fun episode.
That's pretty cool. Okay, here we go. We're moving on. This is Donato Damiano. Funny how that one scene. By the way, I am not sure what movie he's referencing, and I'm not sure if we're getting the right one here. Um, Funny how in that one scene where people are dancing, there's absolutely no music, just the sound of shoes shuffling on the floor. Very peculiar. Actually, this isn't such a bad movie as it's got some gorgeous scenery and the ocean view of Acapulco is lovely. This is what threw me off on this question. Joan Collins is a riot. Plus nice to see Farrah in her younger days. Does this sound like anything that you recall, Kathy?
Um, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the name of that movie and what it would be.
Okay.
Um,
I
yeah,
think I think we're gonna cut that question.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We're moving on. Here we go. Jillian Z. Um, in the later seasons, Sissy's romantic life takes center stage, particularly the heavy expectations around getting engaged to Greg, and later the whirlwind romance with Steve in Travels with Sissy. How much input did you have into ensuring Sissy maintained her independence rather than just rushing into a traditional marriage?
I really didn't have any control over that at all because the writers, I mean, they knew me and I was dating actually a lot in real life, but I didn't have a particular boyfriend. But Greg and I were dating on and off screen. Greg was the son of the producer. So he was there. He was, and I say this, I've already written out what I'm going to say from my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
And he is in a couple of them because he was really such a sweetheart. I was a couple, 2 or 3 years older than Greg. Um, and and he was like ingenuous in a way. So I felt almost like an older sister to him.
Mm.
But I really I liked him a lot. When I look back at these, and he says, "Oh, and I did my first loop job." And he works for this gas station, and here I am going, I said, being in love with Steve, who is, a cowboy and a star, and we're in love, and I get to ride on the motorcycle, and but then there's Greg, and he's, going to get his own gas station, by gum. But, yeah, I always seem to go back to Greg.
Oh, it's so funny that you actually dated in real life too. That's kind of neat. Wow.
Yeah.
I love when it mirrors like that. It's kind of neat. Okay, here we go. This is from Ken Pope. Um, Kathy, how did you get involved in the current series of television commercials advertising the phone for hard to hearing people?
I went on an interview, and I I have a friend, that I've known since I was 14, and she said on my tombstone, it's going to say, "Kathy isn't here. She's out on another interview." Because I go out on auditions all the time. I like it because there's Zoom now, and that's much easier. But this was just a typical audition, and I just got along very well with the producer and the people that, uh, they don't manufacture the phone, but I guess they manufacture the phone and they have a thing with the government that they will give this free phone. And they just played it and played it. Everybody absolutely loved this commercial. And they got such a good response that they just keep playing it and playing it. We made a new one and then they played that and that. But people would come up to me and they said, "Oh, and that's what grandpa used to play," telling me about the bass that grandpa used to play. I'm at
Wow.
the grocery store and people said, "I see you on that commercial. I see you all the time." I'm recognized more for that commercial than than I am for Sissy because now I have blonde hair and
Yeah.
I look like the girl. We did another commercial. That producer now and I are putting together a company for verticals for short dramas. You know, the little verticals.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was in China and they flew me to China, Shanghai to do this little short drama. I came back. I really liked the little short dramas. And then here is my friend that put me in 3 of these clear caption commercials. And we get along great. He thinks I'm very good. And I think he's very good. That makes for a nice partner
That's cool.
when you respect each other's abilities. So we're putting together this short drama, and I'm going to write some of them and appear in some, and I'm on the advisory board, and maybe I'll invest a couple dollars in it. So yeah, clear captions was I got it just by going on an interview.
Oh my gosh. Kathy, you just amaze me. You have since the first interview that I did with you. You never stop. I mean, I love that. I mean that. I mean, you're telling me about the short-lived series. You get these awards. You're writing books last time I saw you, you had, yeah, Romancing with the Stars, I believe is the title. I mean, you never stop. It is just so darn impressive. So, I gotta compliment you on that. That's just amazing. Wow.
Thank you, John.
You
Idle hands are the devil's work, I guess. I sleep 8 hours a night.
well, that's good. No, that's important. Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, here we go. Amy January. I love the Family Affair show. My name is Amy January from Florida. On the Family Affair show, there were lots of bloopers where it took several takes to get the scenes right. Could you tell us about some of your favorite ones if you remember any of them?
I remember this one with Greg. And now Greg didn't have a lot of experience doing things. And plus, I think that there was maybe a little sexual tension between us because we had, we were innocents. Anyway,
Yeah.
and we are standing in front of the locker room. And I swear to God, he would say something that was, just so, again, ingenuous and it's so true. And it would crack me up and I would just start laughing. And then then he would come again and then he'd mess it up a little bit. And then that would make me laugh.
Oh,
I would say my line and then he would mess it up again. That would make me laugh. Well, I swear to God, this was about like 30 takes. I've never done that in my life. I'm like, one take, Kathy. I could not stop giggling and laughing. I swear, every time. Then I couldn't look at him. Did you? I
oh,
just break out laughing again. And I tried, to laugh. I would take deep breaths, do work. I would just start giggling again.
oh my gosh. Now I have to find that episode because I got to see it at the lockers just to see where your energy. That's funny. Oh, wow. Okay. That's a great one. All right. This is from Jake. Jake S. Hi, Kathy. Because of the famous block shooting schedule where you'd film all of Brian Keith's scenes out of order across dozens of scripts, you had to jump across Sissy's emotional timelines constantly. Looking at these episodes like Sissy's Apartment or Travels with Sissy, how difficult was it as a young actress to maintain your emotional continuity when you might be shooting a breakup scene in the morning or a first date scene in the afternoon?
It and that's a good question because it is difficult to do something like that. And it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about discipline. And I was taking who was now I can't think of the TV show that he did. There would Dwayne Hickman. So Dwayne Hickman, Daryl Hickman's brother, had an acting class and I took some lessons from him. I mean, I've had a lot of lessons. Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. I went to UCLA and got my master's in drama and blah, blah, blah. But Daryl Hickman taught me an interesting thing about how one could get to a certain energy level and a certain acting level. And also a 10 thing like you start out happy, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you go all the way up to the scale to sadness and
Mhm.
crying, and then 10 back to neutral.
Hmm.
So it's an instant way to get to where you want to be, and it's also that memory. We did shoot whole scenes, even though it was maybe about 3 weeks later,
Wow.
and that scene abutted another scene. And they says, well, now is there going to be any continuity? But each scene pretty much was contained within itself.
Hmm.
So it was easier than it sounds like to pick up on the scene. The worst thing was the wardrobe, trying
Oh.
to match the wardrobe. And when one of the actors would take perhaps home a piece of jewelry and forget to bring it back, and they were shooting the next day and they realized, oh, oops, I took that home because I was supposed to be a hippie and it was the medallion. And all right,
Oh,
Elma Strom, the wardrobe lady, saying, "Okay, we'll get something like it." So that's a blooper from two two. No, last question. There was a
wow.
blooper. There is a different kind of medallion that I wear, and it's very faint, but there you have it.
How interesting. By the way, you mentioned that Daryl Hickman class. I swear when I first came out to Hollywood as an actor, people still talked about that class, and it's kind of wild that because for me as an actor, I comedy was always very easy. Drama and especially that crime, very difficult. But that's so interesting what you just said about that. The layering. Okay, one we're here, two we're here. I love that. I thought that's really cool. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it's a good technique. It's a good technique to learn how to do that. And what it is the understanding that you can go from one emotion to another emotion when it's called for
Mm,
easily. Because TV is and even quicker now, with
yeah,
2-minute episodes.
yeah, fantastic. Okay, here we go. This is from Mitchell Boxer. Um, Hi, well, he says hi to me, but it's Mitch from Milwaukee. I was recently watching the episode involving a boy that states his dad can beat up Uncle Bill. I saw that Nancy Walker appeared in that episode as the housekeeper working with Mr. French. She even showed Jody how to fight. My question for Kathy is how did it happen that Uncle Bill needed Mr. French and a housekeeper? Also, did Kathy have a chance to talk with Nancy Walker, and how many episodes do you recall she was in?
She was in the last year, season 5, and the creators are thinking, "Oh, well, we need something more, not to jump the ship." A lot of times they add a younger kid or they says, "We're gonna add somebody to the cast."
Mhm.
Nancy Walker, um, was she was like Rhoda's she was on Rhoda, and she was, like, in the Catskills. She did a lot of comedy in the Catskills. She was married to my voice teacher. But anyway, she was there, and I did talk to her. Her biggest thing about doing it was that it was so slow, and uh, they had big close-ups of everybody. She was used to the Catskills, and she wanted and get the jokes out and do that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a joke show. The Family Affair was a situation comedy.
Mhm.
It wasn't a jokey kind of comedy. So that was a big difference, and that took her a little while to get used to. She was in a lot of episodes, and I think it isn't not so much that Uncle Bill needed her, but I think that the writers thought that they needed her. And plus, you know, yeah, so that was the main thing to have a new character and to give Mr. French some, a little bit more contact and dynamic with another, grown up in the house that was more on his not on his level, but was doing things to care for the family.
Yeah, yeah, I get that, and I think it also. I mean, I've seen the whole all the seasons too. I think it also rejuvenated a little bit of it gave it a little boost.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. And these are a lot on episodes, by the way. Tammy from New Mexico. In Jody and Sissy, we see Sissy feeling deeply insecure about whether she and the twins actually belong in Uncle Bill's world. Looking back on that second episode, how did you and Brian Keith work together to build that protective Uncle Bill and Sissy dynamic so early on?
Yes, and I think I could understand how the little kids could be accepted, but here I was a teenager, and in the episode I overhear Uncle Bill saying, "Oh, well, I don't know what to do with a teenager, and is there some kind of school we can put her in or whatever?"
Mhm.
So that hurt my feelings. So here it is. I lost my parents, and I'm a teenager. I don't know who I am. I don't have any identity, and yet I wanted to put on a brave front and say, "Oh, okay." And we built, the trust throughout the throughout all 5 seasons. I think I came to trust him, and it didn't take long because both from the character of Uncle Bill and from who Brian Keith was anyway, he adored kids. And I was a kid, and then, however, he got a star on the Walk of Stars, and I helped him, to raise money and everything, and I made a speech, and I was doing research. Well, his 3rd wife was my same age. So I'm thinking, well, maybe Brian too was keeping his distance a little bit because there's a hot teenager in his house. I was never that way, but I mean, but I was a teenage, I was a good girl. So, and becoming a good woman. But when his advice that he always gave was so good, and I think that a lot of people can learn. And I just did a Facebook post on my Facebook, and they said, "Did you learn anything from Family Affair, or what impressed you?" And so many of them said it was so important that they did learn a way to handle things. He handled everything not with a heavy hand, but
Mhm.
standing. Let's talk about it, and was very rational about looking at different ways to approach the problem without telling them what to do, without letting them explore and learn for themselves. So I think that was a real important kind of thread throughout. And I look at each season, and each season it was like, let them discover, let me, guide, not go over. But Sissy, if you want to marry, you want to go to Austria and marry a prince, okay, let's go. It was like when my own son, came to me, he's 16 or whatever. I want a tattoo. Well, no, I said, I didn't tell him no. I said, oh, you want a tattoo? Okay. So I went with him to the tattoo shop, and I says, oh, that's very interesting. I says, I think I'll get a tattoo. Oh, Mama, you can't. I said, oh, okay. Well, he decided not to get a tattoo. Plus, you had to be 18. So, but he's never gotten a tattoo. He's 35 years old, and he never got a tattoo. So, but that impressed me the way, and so I was you have to let them just, explore a little bit
Mhm.
and still keep like an umbrella from the rain over them.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I love that. Okay, we're moving on. Here's our next
Oh,
question.
it's 11:55. You know what? I have a call a
Oh,
little bit
no.
after 12 with, yes, I do, with these people because I didn't know how long this was going to last. Um,
Okay.
we're doing a movie, and we're talking Sean McNamara. He's the director. Anyway, I have a call at
Okay,
12.
well, we can make this our last one. How's that?
Okay.
All right, here we go. And you've been great, so no worries there. Okay. Pete, season 1, episode 24, A Matter of Arrangement. This is a this is a dynamic many oldest siblings face. I know I did. Feeling invisible when the younger kids demand all the attention. Do you remember if you drew any of your own real life experiences as a teenager to bring out that specific sense of isolation that Sissy seems to be feeling?
Well, I was the youngest in my family, and I had two big brothers and a big sister. But I since I was the youngest, at times I felt isolated. And sometimes I don't think it's the age that one is, if one is older or younger, because one can have that isolation in uh, in many families for many different reasons. And so I did draw on it, but it wasn't because I was older. It was because I was younger.
Mm, interesting. Okay. All right. Well, listen, Kathy, I appreciate you being on. I think you're terrific, and you look great, and the energy, like I said, that you put out is just really like inspirational. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I think I'm doing a lot, and then I talk to you, and I'm like, wait, is there more I could be doing? Um, but anyway, thanks a bunch, and I know the fans are going to be thrilled that you answered all the questions and everything. And anyway, I appreciate you being back on. I will be in touch, obviously, when this gets released. And good luck with everything that you have upcoming that you've mentioned.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. I always love seeing you and talking with you. You have this light in your eyes and the best smile ever. It's just, I love to see your face and interact. That's great. Well, we'll stay in touch.
All right, you got it. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, John.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Please hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell so you're notified when I release a new episode of That's Classic. And in case you missed any of the old episodes, go check them out, like Henry Winkler from Happy Days, or Jerry Mathers from Leave It to Beaver, or Judy Norton from The Waltons. There's so many. Enjoy.